Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 118, featuring Dr. Lauren Starnes. Welcome back to the podcast, my friends. This is Kris Murray, and I'm thrilled to be here with you here in February of 2022, or whenever you're listening to this podcast. And I'd like to thank one of our sponsors of today's podcast, Childcare Education Institute. My friends over at CCEI, let me tell you a little bit about what they got going on. Are you part of the 75% of educators who dealt with work-related stress last year? If so, Childcare Education Institute wants to help make your 2022 anxiety-free. To do that, they're offering our listeners free access, guys, to an exclusive online course on stress management for teachers. It's called Stress Management for Childcare Providers. The course number is PROF 100, Prof 100. And claim your free course today by visiting cceionline.com. Select Enroll Now and use the code CCSC2. That's CCSC, the number 2, at sign up. While you're there, be sure to check out CCEI's 150 plus other courses, including ones on important topics like mindfulness and STEM. I love CCEI because you can complete courses 24/7 from any device, and you can earn IACET CEUs at no additional cost. After completing your free course, you'll see why 99% of users would recommend CCEI to a friend. Don't forget to use code CCSC2 at sign up to get your exclusive access to that free course. All right. Lauren Starnes is with us here in the house at the podcast today. You're going to love her. She is a force of nature. I mean, my goodness, she wrote an incredible book called Big Conversations with Little Children, addressing questions, worries, and fears. And the timing has never been better for this book. We dive right into today's world in early childhood classrooms, what's going on with teachers and leaders, all the stress, all the issues, all the hurdles that we've had to overcome, and how it's impacted children. And the questions that children are asking have been more challenging than ever. And the timing is fantastic. Couldn't be better for this book. So this book is going to give you guys a toolkit and your teachers a new way of communicating effectively when you get asked those questions. Oh my gosh, how do I answer that question from that little one? And this is an amazing book to help you with exactly that. So you might even be able to use it with the big people around you too. You never know. So we talk all about it, all the controversial things that have been going on in our world that we have to help kids navigate, right? All those minefields. And parenting is hard. It's harder than ever with dealing with COVID and racial strife and gender issues and political issues and health issues. It's been just extremely difficult. So this interview is right on time with Dr. Lauren Starnes. And let me tell you a little bit more about Lauren. ECE expert Dr. Lauren Starnes has completed dual doctoral programs in both child development and educational leadership. She currently holds the position of VP of Early Childhood Education for Primrose Schools, where she supports curriculum development, implementation, and evaluation. And she previously served as Primrose's Executive Director of Professional Development. So she knows a ton and has years of expertise. Primrose is now just about at or slightly over 500 locations. Incredible growth for that brand. And we learned from Lauren all the good stuff that's going on over at Primrose and how you can utilize these different techniques and topics in your ECE journey. When not working, Lauren enjoys spending time with her family, traveling, and cheering on her two sons in sports. And she lives in Marietta, Georgia. So it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Starnes and to her book. It will be going on sale on March 1st. It's on pre-sale right now on Amazon.com, so you can get yourself a pre-sale copy. I highly recommend that you do. And let's meet Lauren without any further ado. I know you're going to love this incredible conversation that we have about how to have effective hard conversations with the little ones and how to make those conversations and how you respond to tough questions developmentally appropriate and in the best interest of the child. Finally, I'd like to thank our other sponsor of today's podcast, IntelliKids. IntelliKids Systems employee management system brings communication and marketing automation to all your recruitment efforts. Move candidates seamlessly through the hiring process from submitting applications through onboarding and even post-employment communication. Use multiple schedules to have candidates book both virtual and in-person interviews themselves without you having to spend time chasing them. Fantastic. Simply put, with IntelliKids Systems, it's a whole new way to handle staffing. It's so exciting. So thanks, Jared and friends over at IntelliKids for supporting Childcare Rockstar Radio. Okay, everybody, enjoy this episode and let's dive right in. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Thrilled to have you back here at Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am very excited to bring to you today Miss Lauren Starnes. Lauren, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Kris?
Doing fantastic. Thanks so much for being here on the podcast. Really appreciate you taking the time. Where are you right now?
So I am connecting with you from my home office in Marietta, Georgia, which is just north of Atlanta.
Awesome. And you work at Primrose Schools, which is one of the largest, if not the largest, franchise operation for early childhood education. Tell us more about what you do at Primrose.
Sure. So I serve as the Vice President of Early Childhood Education. So my team's job is to oversee everything that happens educationally within those four walls. So Primrose is over 500 franchise locations currently, serving infants through kindergarten, as well as before and after school. And so my team dives deep into the research and the development of the curriculum, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, assessment, accreditation, and just really making sure that what we do is providing the best education for children.
So early on, I actually visited and shopped a couple different Primroses for my clients and was very impressed with the presentation of the holistic approach to curriculum for infants through kindergarten. And you had it like by age level with different colors of how you do it in terms of holistically capturing and impacting and developing all the aspects of the child. So I just wanted to tell you that from a educational marketer's perspective, I was extremely impressed. And that was probably back in, 2010, 2011. So I'm not sure if you were with the organization back then, but I think Primrose has always done an amazing job with curriculum development.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. You should come back and visit again. I think you'll still be impressed.
Yeah, I really, in 500 locations, that's incredible growth, right? I mean, because I think
through the pandemic.
Even through the pandemic. So I love that. How did you get into this field of work? What are some career highlights that you'd like to share?
Sure. So I completed my doctoral studies in child development. and was actually teaching at the university level. I was teaching elementary education. And there were a lot of statements made about early childhood which perplexed me. There seemed to be an impression that somehow teaching early childhood was easier than teaching in elementary education. So I left a tenure track position to run a preschool and have been in early childhood ever since. Have served in every role from teaching through directorship, worked in the education department and authored a curriculum for a large corporate childcare company. And have now been with Primrose for 4 years, led their training and development team, and then now the education department.
Awesome. So you're a official doctor. So you're Dr. Lauren Starnes.
That's correct. Yes.
So I want to give you that props. And we met through Evan Goldman, who is our friend. Many of you guys have met Evan at our Childcare Success Summits in the exhibitor hall. He's awesome, and he helps lots of childcare clients, software clients, other curriculum clients with their business development. And so Evan connected us, and he was highlighted here on the podcast back in like episode 4 or something. Very, very early days. So
That's
very,
great.
very, very cool. So shout out to you, Evan. Tell us a little bit about your personal life. What's going on at home, Lauren, and a little bit more about your family and stuff that you're into.
Absolutely. So I'm a mother of 2 sons. I have a teenager and a preteen. So they keep me very busy. Both boys play travel baseball. So year round, if I'm not at home or at work, I'm at a baseball field or at a batting cage one. Also have a house full of animals. So 2 dogs, 2 cats keep me busy, and enjoy traveling when I'm not working. Anytime I can get to a beach or to some body of water, I will do it. So it's my happy place.
Awesome. Very, very cool. And what is something about you that hardly anyone knows, a fun fact that you can share?
So I am all about music, all genres, from country to R&B to reggae. So certainly you'll find me at concerts of all types, or even at a karaoke bar if the mood so strikes.
Nice. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, it depends on the mood, Kris. It depends. But I love it. I really enjoy music. I play music most of the workday as well. So if I'm working from home and my sons aren't here, I've got Pandora going in the background.
Nice. Awesome. Well, our next summit event in the fall is going to be in Nashville, Music City. So maybe you can come and hang out with us. We are excited to go see lots of live music. And in fact, we're going to have some local musicians come into the conference and just play music for us randomly in the halls of the show. So we're very excited to have feature and give some love to local unknown musicians. So maybe we'll make some discoveries. Who knows?
That's great.
What are a couple of the top issues that you have seen taking place with teacher teams over the last 18 months? It's been a struggle, right? Coming through the pandemic and all of the COVID protocols and classroom procedures and health department regulations. And so teachers have been exhausted. It's just been really, really tough for leaders and teachers to make it through our world over the last 18 months. So tell us a little bit about issues that you've seen and how you have helped leaders be more effective solving those issues.
Sure. I mean, I think the reality is we have to remember, teaching preschool is a difficult job. It's difficult, it's multifaceted, it's stressful. And that's in the work environment. But we have all been living in a stressful environment in our personal lives as well through the pandemic. And so I think one of the things, and actually it goes to the heart of my book, is conversation. Children are asking a lot of big questions. Why are we wearing masks? They're hearing bits on the radio, or they might hear overheard adult conversations. And because of at the age of early childhood education, they don't have the conceptual understanding to understand what they're hearing. So they're asking things because they're curious. And oftentimes we as adults don't know how to answer, which goes to the heart of the book. I think the other thing to keep in mind is our industry has always been plagued with high rates of turnover. That's not new to early childhood. That's been around forever. But I think right now we're seeing turnover because of burnout. There's just a lot of stress. And so I think it's really about finding ways to support early childhood teachers, engage them, offer professional development, and pull them out of isolation, connecting them with mentors or more knowledgeable others to bounce ideas off of. So they really feel that support so they can bring that confidence into the classroom.
Hmm. Yeah, completely agree with you. And I love the focus on conversation. So we'll talk about your book here coming up. Um, because at the end of the day, with a people oriented business, with big and little people, definitely the communication piece is probably the most vital piece that
Uh,
um, I think sometimes we don't focus on it enough. Sometimes we're tired of all the talking, but also there's nonverbal communication and there's things that we can do to have those tough conversations and fun conversations. So I think that you nailed it for sure. How can leaders be more focused on the educational development of children? I feel like we are so many of our clients and listeners in this audience they're just fighting fires. They're going from one fire to the next, which is one reason why we're all so exhausted and burned out. So, how can we try to shift away from being a firefighter to really be more focused on the educational development of kids?
I think it comes down to trusted relationships. I mean, parents are trusting us to offer a service to their children that they either are unable to do because they're working, majority of working adults, or they feel like there's a school, the preschool, the child care center is going to do a better job. And so I think keeping in mind that the whole basis of the relationship is trust. I think it's important that we get to know the families. What's important to them? What's happening in their lives? What's happening in the child's life? And it might be as mundane to us as new shoes and how exciting are new shoes at 3, especially if they're glittery and they squeak, or a new pet, or perhaps grandma's coming to town, or we're planning a trip to Disney, or something's happening. I think the more we can relate to the family on a personal level, the more we're going to be able to connect to the child on an educational level. Because for children, it also comes down to trust. And
Mhm.
trust with an adult means getting to know what's important to them, what's happening in their life, asking good questions, and also providing confident, honest, and open answers.
Love that. So tell us a little bit about your book. What's the title and what's the nature of the content of the book? And why did you write a
Sure,
book?
absolutely. So it's been a long work in process. It's called Big Conversations with Little Children. And I'll tell you, my boys are now 13 and 11. But when my oldest son was not quite 5 and my youngest son was not quite 3, I distinctly remember to this day, Kris, they came into my office and my older son was holding Time Picture of the Year and he slammed the book down on my desk and said, "What happened on September 11th?"
Whoa.
And I was stunned. I wasn't sure how to respond. Here I see my 2 wide-eyed children, and there on the back cover of the book is a picture of the firefighters in New York City
Mm.
shortly after the World Trade Center. Um, and so I grappled with the question for a little bit, and I asked him, "What do you think happened on September 11th?" And my older son said, "I don't know, Mommy. I asked my teacher, and she said we don't talk about that at school."
Mm.
And so I began to explain in very simple terms September 11th to my preschool age children. My youngest son starts smiling and says, "It's okay, Mommy. This sounds like an accident." And my older son, at not quite 5, turns to him and says, "Gavin, things like that don't happen by accident."
Wow.
When I finished the conversation, I left the room and I cried, partially because I thought to myself, my children came to me because they thought they couldn't ask the question,
Mhm.
right? And how difficult to have that conversation with a 4 and 2-year old, almost 3-year at the time child. And I began, Kris, keeping a journal of topics that we encounter as parents and as early childhood professionals where we don't often know what to say. Things like miscarriage, right? A child who is excited because mommy's having a baby brother or sister one day, and then is told, "Don't ask about that," a few days later. And the child doesn't know why. With what we saw what's happening, socially and politically with violence in the news and pandemics and world crisis and war and deployment, parental incarceration, all of these things that happen in family homes. And yet when they come to school and we're questioned as adults, we don't know what to say. I kept note on things that occurred in my professional life where I had to support schools, or where situations would arise and it was kind of, I don't know what to do. Gender fluidity, great example, right? What do we say when a child asks? And what do we say when a parent approaches us as a professional community? And so through my book, what it's really designed to do is support early childhood teachers and professionals. When you encounter a question of a big nature, and that's kind of language I use, adult topic, oftentimes these topics are uncomfortable because we as adults have our own experiences, our own emotions about them, our own political leanings, our own opinions, and therefore we tend to silence the question. The most common response is, we'll talk about that later, or not now. I think about my younger son in the middle of Target loudly announcing as we were checked out, "Mommy, is he a boy or a girl?" pointing to the cashier. And in that moment, as a parent, you want to silence the conversation. And yet the child is asking because they genuinely want to know. And so I use the basis of that to kind of build out this book. So how do we start the conversation when a child asks something? How do we respond appropriately? Honestly, developmentally appropriately, but also not oversharing. Death is a great example. Death of a pet, death of a classmate, death of a teacher, death of a family member. We want to give honest answers, but we also don't want to scare the child.
Right.
And so the book provides very simple explanations. Then it goes into developmentally, what are some things a child might say in response to that? I'll use death as an example. If you tell a 3 and 4-year-old child about the death of anyone or anything, oftentimes their response would be, "That's okay." Well, we as adults want to be like, "What do you mean that's okay? It's sad, it's heartbreaking." And so how do I respond to that child's naive response in return? Or, "It's okay, nobody else is going to die." Again, a childlike response, but we as adults have an emotional reaction to it. And so the book is designed to guide through that. With each topic, there's then a section for parents. The thing that we have to realize in the early childhood community is just like there are certain things that we wouldn't say to our family, but we would say to a girlfriend over a glass of wine. There are certain things that children won't say to their parents, but they will say in a classroom with their peers.
Right.
Because again, it's more comfortable. So oftentimes these conversations start in the classroom. And so as a teacher, how do I handle the topic, answer the question appropriately, but then engage with the family? I need to let you know that, say, during circle time, Molly shared with the class that, or I was asked by your child if. How do I then engage the parent in terms of what the parent would like shared or not shared? And frankly, if, getting more information about it, again, building that trusted relationship. There's a section for every topic for parents. This book, this iteration is primarily for early childhood professionals. However, coming very soon will be a flip version, a version for parents. But in this version, there's plenty for parents to pull as well.
Right.
Just in kind of these everyday conversations.
Wow, that is so powerful. I'm loving the timing of this book, Lauren. I mean, with what's going on in our society, with everybody's heightened sensitivity around difficult conversations and racially charged, gender charged, all the charges societally of what's going on right now in our world, political, just so many things, not to mention the more, I guess, classic difficult conversations like divorce and death. It's just, this is an amazing tool. I love this tool for teachers and for leaders because we need this. This is awesome. So it's coming out. You said it was on pre-sale now when we talked in the pre chat. And then when is it coming out for people to get their hands on? Because I know that this is going to be very popular.
Yes, officially released on March 1st.
Okay.
It's pre-sale right now. It's being published with Free Spirit Publishing. But any provider, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, it's pre-sale right now. But March 1 is the launch date.
Awesome. Big conversations. Love it.
Yeah.
How have you, because you were a training you were in charge of training and development for teachers at Primrose, and then you went into the director, VP of curriculum and ECE, and I'm sure you're still really involved in the training piece as well. But how can this book, or how do these tools get folded into what you do around teacher training and teacher development with regard to helping them become better communicators in the classroom?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, these conversations are difficult for parents with their own children. They're even more difficult when it's a teacher with a child that's not his or her own child. And so it's really about building confidence and being able to say, as a teacher, if I'm asked a question that shows me that the child trusts me. I'll take a perfect example. I had an experience when I was running a school where a child came to school and shared with me, "Did you know Daddy's going to jail?" No, I didn't know that. Right? I didn't know that. But here, this child came into the school and openly shared a very private thing in the family, and yet there was an element of trust. I think it's important for teachers to understand that when children share things and ask questions, they're saying, "I trust you. I trust you." Right? I know that you know something that I don't know, and I trust you. And I think as an adult, we want to feel like we're building that relationship with the child. And so my hope is that this becomes a tool for teachers to build their confidence, but also their developmental knowledge. Because oftentimes, if a teacher does answer the question or acknowledge, "I didn't know that. How are you feeling about that?" and the child says happy or angry or sad, how do I respond? Right? As an adult, I want to ask questions. I'm curious. But my job as a teacher is to support the child. And regardless of how the child's feeling, it's okay. And they need to know they have a safe and secure environment in which to feel that, express that, and know that they're still loved, they still belong. And so my hope is that this helps teachers feel like they belong too. None of us want to be in an uncomfortable situation where we're asked or put on the spot. And so my hope is that it will lessen some of that stress. A lot of these are questions that teachers do grapple with. They're like, "I don't know what to say."
Right.
Because growing up, I was told this, or in my faith, I believe this. I don't know the child's faith. I don't know how to respond. So that it would help kind of demystify some of that, if you will, and allow the teacher to go back to building that trust, building that strong relationship, that strong bond with the child, and also with the family. One thing we know in early childhood is that families see teachers as the teacher, sometimes the marriage counselor, sometimes the physical therapist, occupational therapist, behavioral counselor, sometimes personal therapist. They're seen as running a lot of times. Pediatricians, her nose is running a little bit. She has a cough. Do you think she could have a cold?
Right.
I don't know. Right? Teacher.
Yeah.
Parents expect teachers to wear a lot of hats. And hopefully this book helps give teachers some of that expertise to be able to say, "You know what? I think I have a resource for you. I think I have an that can help you have that conversation with your child. I am so sorry to hear that grandma was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I have a resource that can help you guide that conversation with your child." I think it builds trust with the family as well. And if you think back to the original part of our conversation, that's why families seek early child education, because they trust. And so
Yeah.
it's going to help further to build that bond.
Yep. You're nailing it for sure. I love this. I love this resource. And it's just an amazing tool, because I think one of the things that we get asked most often in coaching is, "Can you help give me some language pointers around how to approach this conversation? Can you help give me some words to negotiate better, or deal with this situation better, or help manage this conflict better?" It's a lot of it is trying to help leaders and teachers with scripting, with having that toolkit. And this is a phenomenal resource for that. So, and I don't know of anything else like this out there. So I just love this, Lauren. This is really, really cool. Tell us a little bit about what you've learned in your career so far. You're rather young and have done amazing things so far in your career. So you may be a seasoned professional, but you don't, you look very young and beautiful. So I know that there's things that you've experienced, but what might you do differently if you could go back in a magic time machine?
Sure. I think I would engage more with mentors. I'm a strong believer in mentorship. I think, to quote Lev Vygotsky, we learn more from more knowledgeable others, good, bad, and different. I can look back in my career and pinpoint individuals. Evan Goldman's a great one. Individuals who've made a positive impact on my professional and personal life. I think at the time I didn't always consider that, and I think back now and say, oh, I wish I had asked more questions of that leader. I will tell you, I even look back and think about individuals that I would consider master teachers who worked for me, master. And I think to myself, hierarchy doesn't matter. What was it that sparked him or her to be so strong in the classroom? I wish I had asked more questions.
Yeah.
I have gone back and sought out some of those individuals and said, listen, I have to know, right? I've been in the field for 20 plus years. You stand out as a teacher, a master teacher. What is it? Like, what's your spark? What's your drive? And I've learned a lot in terms of what sparks people to do what they do and do it so very well. I also carry that forward into my team. I think mentorship's important. We all strive for something else, the next thing. And I think the best thing we can do as a leader is to prepare people to achieve what they wish they can achieve and what they don't yet realize that they can do.
I love that. That's so inspirational. I have also seen those master teachers in the classroom, and I am in awe of them. It's
Yeah.
just an incredible thing to witness. So I love that you said that. And, we all have teachers that we remember that I think made us who we are today. My personal example is my third grade teacher, who, if it wasn't for her inspiring me and pushing me to get in front of the board and actually do my math and showing me that I could be good at math, I wouldn't have gone on to become a calculus whiz in my senior year of high school. But that's the spark of an amazing
Yeah.
teacher, of a life-changing teacher. And we have those examples through the ECE industry every day. So shout
And
out
so
to,
my older son has a comment that he'll say, a phrase that he uses frequently. He's 13. And I often ask him, Braden, do you know where you learned that? And he's like, no. I'm like, you learned that from Miss Candies, your 3-year-old preschool teacher. He doesn't remember her. And yet I watch him at 13, 10 years later, still carrying forth things that she taught him. So sometimes those teachers impact us as parents as well.
yeah.
But you're absolutely right.
Awesome. So I love this brand new book of yours. This is a great resource. What are some other books and things that you have loved in your journey so far that you'd like to share? Books, resources, or go-tos?
Yeah. There's a leadership book called The Gift of Struggle. The Maria Montessori has that quote, never do for a child what a child feels he can do for himself. This book is the same thing for us as leaders. And it really talks about embracing your struggles, which I think is hard for us as adults. And so it really kind of highlights taking the time to reflect when you trip, sharing those missteps with people that are looking to you, not just celebrating your successes, but celebrate your failures. It's a book that I go to frequently on those hard days when you've had that misstep and saying, it's okay, I'm going to celebrate this, so learn from it. The Importance of Being Little, great book. Erica Christakis, great book. And I really think she hit the nail on the head of finding a way to take child development research and make it relevant. As a former doc student myself, nobody enjoys reading research studies. They're not that engaging. They're too academic. They're too technical. She's taken all of that and kind of put the who cares into it, right, and making it relevant of saying, this is why you care. This is why it matters. So certainly a great read for those that are looking to learn more in child development. And then the last one that I would think of is the Maurice Sykes books, Doing the Right Thing for Children. I think in the day and age in which we live, where we're very focused on equality and inclusion and being fair, I think he takes a very practical approach to that, to talk about how do I embrace a child's identity holistically, likes, dislikes, family, gender, race, culture, religion, holistically, and really get to the heart of the child. And what does that mean as a leader to really create a culture of belongingness? I think about the idea, Kris, even if I were to walk into a room of individuals of my same race, culture, gender, marital status, age, it doesn't mean I feel like I belong. It doesn't automatically feel like I belong with that group. And he really highlights that. It's not about looking like the people that you're with. Culture and belongingness is bigger than that. And so he's really created some interesting, for me, reflective points on what does it mean to create an environment where families and children feel like they're comfortable. And that's not just about the visuals. I think that's really another profound book that has stuck with me over the years.
That's interesting. Are you looking at taking the environment of the school and trying to fold that into the welcome, being able to build the welcomeness, the trust, the comfortability of the classroom, the environment of the classroom I'm sure that's something that you're also consistently trying to work on at Primrose as part of your role?
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. We as adults don't remember what it was like to be 3. So I think sometimes we take what we remember, we think we remember, and try to project it down. I think in an early childhood setting, the environment has to be comfortable for children and comfortable for adults. And that's a hard balance to strike. And so it's absolutely important that the environments we create, kind of thinking about what does a child see? If I walk into a child care center, walk into a preschool on child eye level, what do I see? We frequently focus on what we see as adults, which is wonderful. But if the child sees a whole bunch of knees and wood, and it might not be as engaging. And so I think environment is critically important from the time you walk into the environment and certainly in the classroom.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking us through your book and all of the cool things that it stands for and that it's going to provide to the industry and also to parents. It will definitely be impactful for children and, of course, for teachers and parents. And I can't wait to get a copy. It's Big Conversations. What was the subtitle?
Big Conversations with Little Children.
Big Conversations with Little Children. Wonderful. By Dr. Lauren Starnes, who I have been so happy to interview today here at the podcast. Lauren, thanks so much for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kris. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Go get a copy of the book, on sale March 1st, and we will talk to everybody next time. Thanks so much for being here. Take care and God bless.